SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome students to the online NPTEL course Contemporary Architecture and Design. In today's class we will discuss about a different topic, which is typography, and because it's quite important to understand, to have a basic knowledge about typography while we discuss about architecture as well as the design. So in design we talk about the style and what is the different features which was coming around, and in architecture also what kind of construction technique, materials and the visual vocabulary was getting evolved in architecture. But today without the typography becomes a integral part of both the cases in architecture as well as the design. And for example, if we select a signage or later for the signages in the built environment or in the interior spaces, what kind of typefaces will go with is quite important to know with the sense of architectural visual style. And similarly for the in the cases of design, many of the cases we need to select the typefaces, and so this is quite important to have a basic understanding what is the style of typefaces and what are the different eras and how it evolved throughout the history and contemporary movements. So few of the typefaces were already just few were mentioned, like Bauhaus typefaces, and what are the similar typefaces which was which can go with the Art Nouveau style, which was discussed when we were discussing the movement. But mostly we did not we did not go through the typefaces movement. And especially if you're working on the graphic design and the visual communication design, typography becomes a very integral part. Today we will not give you a detailed description of typography because it's a complete subject altogether. We'll just give you a basic idea and just a broad history and a very basic concept of typography. We'll not go towards the morphology of typefaces because you are not going to design a typeface. You can, but this is not under the scope of the study area in this syllabus. So the kerning, excite, what will be the spacing between typefaces, we're not discussing that. What should be the length of the excite versus the total drop, ascenders and descenders, and kerning we are not discussing. It is part of the pure typography course. We will just discuss how to select typefaces and the basic of typography movement, and we will not also talk about the different typefaces. We'll just give a basic idea of how if the typeface looks like this, what can be the time frame when it was designed, and how it will help you to select a typeface and for your design. So we'll also not give you a very vast list of typefaces which you have to select, and how to understand what is a good typeface versus a poorly designed typeface. So we'll also not discuss that. We'll just give you a basic idea of how what are the different segments of typography, what are the different classifications. So evolution of typography, it started with the basic the ancient era where people started scribbling on adobe tiles, or they started etching on something, or they started writing on papyrus, or they started chiseling the marble in classical Greek and Roman architecture. So the first typefaces which got evolved during the classical era is called sans serif typefaces, because they had to chisel out from a stone. So they had the tools to chisel out, and then the hammer. So they had a particular inclination, and one side becomes thin because of the inclination of the tool. The chisel's head was something like this. So when it goes like this becomes thick, and when it goes like this side, this becomes when it goes in this direction, this becomes thin, and when it goes in this direction, this becomes thick. So that's why this difference in thickness started coming, and this was quite difficult to use this tool to end a sharp edge. That's why they created this kind of edge, especially in the end. So A will look like this, and because the end chiseling the end was quite different, it will end like this. Now for this part they had to use a different tool and chisel it out. So that's why this kind of typefaces got evolved from the Roman typefaces, which is called as serif typefaces. So these are the serif ends. Now we also have a type category which does not have this serif ends, which is called sans serif. So it might just look like this, and there won't be any serif ends. So those type category is called sans serif, and if it has a serif end, so this will be a serif typefaces. So generally, so in our conception, because serif typefaces were evolved first, serif typefaces has a much older look than sans serif. So if you want a very new sleek modern look, you should go for a sans serif typefaces, and if you want to connect your design with a classical and more ornate style, ornamentation heavy style, then you should go for a serif typeface in general perception. Now later we all know that German inventor Johannes Gutenberg first invented the printing press during the Renaissance period, which happened in Germany, which is around 14th century to 17th century. During that time, before that they used to handwrite and copy the different texts like Bibles and other manuscripts, but after that, after invention of Bible, they started printing. So this after invention of the printing press, they started printing, and the first printed book was Bible. And then so from there printed text started coming. Before that it was calligraphy, and before that it was chiseled. It was chiseled from stone on write up on papyrus, or scratch on adobe clay tiles. This was the different paradigms. Now after invention of the printing press, there was a need for homogeneous typefaces. So that started evolving. On the first one of the first style was Litera Antica and other typefaces, which has a very classical or the medieval look, and which got evolved from calligraphy. So these are not calligraphic typefaces. So this is Gutenberg's Bible's one of the page, but if you look at this, so this looks like a calligraphy. So these ends were like that. So if you have a calligraphic pen, so this kind of change of line thickness will be there, because they before that the Bibles used to look like because it was handwritten. And people used to copy the manuscript to make another copy of the Bible or the other books. So it used to look something like the handwritten calligraphy thing. So that got inspired, and the first kind of typefaces which was used in the printing press has a direct inspiration from the calligraphic style. So these kind of letters, if you see, these are quite pre-industrial revolution. It has a look of pre-industrial revolution. So these are not modern styles. So this will go with the Renaissance and those Baroque Rococo style of design. Now next, so this is the evolution in the 15th century Italy. So Litera Antica, which we see that this kind of old style fonts are started generating. So there's a designer, Nicholas Johnson, who designed this kind of he established this printing firm in Venice around 1969, and he used this kind of typefaces, litera antica, and his typefaces merged the Gothic traditional style into French and German that time of Renaissance style. So that was the style which was there. In the later phases after litera antica, so which was the pre-industrial revolution, which can go with the style from Renaissance to industrial revolution, because that is the time after Renaissance Gutenberg made the Bible, and this time this litera antica and the similar fonts was there, which was inspired from the hand painted calligraphic style. Now after industrial revolution, there was few fonts which evolved and took inspiration from litera antica, but drastically changed the style of design, and it's much more modern because it's a modern font which includes Garamond. So the font which we use today, a few of the fonts are like Garamond, Bembo, Palantino and Jensen, which are named after the printers who worked in the 15th to 16th century, which is Renaissance time. So these fonts are not Renaissance fonts, these are modern font, but this has a link with the Renaissance. So we all know that in the beginning of the modern style, so there was a few architecture and design movement which went against the machine movement, and then they established the hand the craftsmanship. So for example, Art Nouveau, and also later Art Deco and Chicago style. We have this in the Chicago style also, it's in few cases Louis Sullivan's work Art Nouveau was blended with Chicago style, and other styles where this is not like internationalist movement. So in internationalist and Bauhaus we cannot use, but in the other cases, so we can use these kind of fonts which has a connection with the handwritten calligraphic style, which is known in together, it's known as a humanist font, which evolved in the modern era. So if you look at the Garamond font, which is one of the humanist font of old, which connects the old style, if you look at the G of any typefaces of the Garamond font, the spacing between these two lines, the end lines will not be equal. So it will look like somebody have used the paintbrush and painted each and every letter. So if you use this part of the of a letter in your poster or composition, you will see all these lines have a tilted lines. None of these are straight lines, and if you expand it and zoom in each and every letter, you will see that it looks like a painted font. So if you look at the Garamond's font, so as the other fonts which comes under humanist, so it does not look like a machine made font. So this is kind of against the machine fonts which you can use in your design. So contemporary revival of historical fonts are designed to confront the conform with the modern technologies. It's against the modern technology and against the modern technology, but it also has the inspiration of the modern technology. So it's not exactly something like litera antica, so it's not coming from the calligraphic style. It looks minimal, but still it has that humanist touch. So it also fulfills the demand of sharpness and uniformity, but still it's not as uniform as totally machine made font. Now another, we all know that there's two difference in italics and then Roman, which is upright, which is Roman, and italics, which we right now have in our system in digital fonts. So it came from, it has a background story which started from again litera antica, which has a italic version. First was the Roman version, and then they made the italic version. So what happened is, in the italic style, it was it become a little less expensive, because the cursive font saved money because it saves spaces. So when you are writing like this, so that started saving spaces, because and the next font has a similar space, so it does not end like this and the next font starts after this. So this is a space saving happening because of the slant. So in the smaller space you can write more text, so that's why this becomes cheaper. And from there the italic version of the typefaces came, and which is also available right now in the digital version. In the 16th century, printers began integrating Roman and italic form into the same family. Right now we have a similar excite, and in one type of type family has italics, bold, ultra thin, and all these variations are there in today's one type family. So Sabon is one of the typefaces which is designed by Jan Taschereau in 1966, which is of kind of mid-modern, which is based on a 16th century typefaces of Claude Garamond, and Garamond was on one of the that kind of typefaces which is named after Garamond, Claude Garamond. And if you look at Sabon also has a similar kind of thing. So it's you can see this is changing and has this sans serif style. So this is a humanist or old style later, which has a depiction of the Roman typefaces of 15th and 16th century, and it's kind of a revival of the similar typefaces. But this was designed in 19th century, when in 19th century, which is modernist movement. Then there's the next phase, which is transitional, which comes after that. So the Sabon and Garamond was has an older version. After that, this is transitional. Transitional is one of the typefaces is John Baskerville, which is designed in the transitional phase, which is 18th century, the mid 18th century, which has a sharper end. So if you look at these kind of curves, which looks like a painted font with a paintbrush, and there's a lot of change of the lines were minimized in transitional style, and this is more a little bit more homogeneous, and there's a straight line going, and it has a more inclined towards the machine. So it's more abstract and less organic than the humanist style, which is John Baskerville. The Baskerville font is one of these. Now next is the another style, which is it started changing. So this style is called this is a Bodini font, where you can see the curves of these serif ends got minimized, and this has a more machine made aesthetics than the previous one. So it went towards a little farther, and so these are the fonts where there are still serif ends, which is ornate and has a connection of the previous the pre-industrial evolution style. So these kind of these three font can go with the Renaissance, Baroque, Enlightenment period, as well as the Rococo, as well as the Art Nouveau, and those periods which is which is going against the machine. Now another kind of style is this is we are right now coming in the sans serif. So this looks more modern and more contemporary. So there's no serif ends at the end. So this is a humanist sans serif. So it's not it has a humanist touch in the sans serif. So it's not exactly. So if you go detail in the typefaces, so you will see that the sans serif also has a different version. So the Gill sans has a little humanist version. So you can see there's a change in the length, and also this letter A has a calligraphic variation in the line width. If you zoom in, so you will see a little variation in the line width here. And the small letters and the other letters, if you look at, so there will be a variation. And in the later phases, when we will go in the next other typographic other typefaces, these kind of variations will also be minimized. So this is a humanist sans serif, which is Gill sans. Now it is a transitional sans serif, which is going into the next phase. So here this variation, there is a slight variation, because when it is getting joined, if it is thick, then it will give a black patch. So this kind of deviation is still there, but you can see the deviation is quite less from the humanist sans serif, which is a transitional sans serif, or the grotesque or neo-grotesque is under this style. This is Helvetica. Helvetica is one of the very well designed. It looks good in if you are selecting a sans serif font. So Helvetica is a very well designed font, which comes under which looks and which goes with many design if you are going for a sleek and minimalist look. Now there is a geometric sans serif, which is more geometric in nature, which is also designed in the modern era, which is 1927. It was been designed by Paul Renner. So here we can see a lot of geometry, and this is A is a complete circular A. So here this curved A and the more traditional look of the A is minimized by a more geometric one, and this kind of angularity is added in the typefaces. So if you if you are using Futura, it gives a very contemporary, very modern, sleek, minimalist look, and it can go with a modern, sleek design. And if you look at the logo of the metal band Linkin Park, their design of the letters were a distorted version of Futura, and it also goes with the type of songs where the genre of the song which they play. So this kind of angularity gives a very sharpness in the design. Now another style is Egyptian or slab serif, which is Clarendon. This style, which is again has a serif end, but it is not modern. It is more associated with the postmodern typefaces, where postmodernism, we know it has again more ornamentation, and it again went back to history. So they started ornamenting the font. So these kind of fonts you see on the posters and placards or the billboards in postmodern era, and here this is called slab serif. So in the typefaces, these serifs were the ornamentations, and it also has a functional attribute in visual ergonomics. When these serif ends are there, so this, if you minimize the font size because of the serif ends, this becomes very legible. But in Egyptian or slab serif, this serifs worked as a ornamentation, not just a functional thing. So here in this slab serif, so these serifs looks like a slab, so these are very thick. The ornamentations are becoming much more pronounced and much more exaggerated. So here if you look, the A's tail is the end part is exaggerated, and it's going up, and the thickness of the serif as and the main the part of this text is quite different in terms of the morphology, and it's quite ornamental. So these is quite it will go with the pop and the postmodern style. So these are the few fonts which we have discussed. So it goes from the previous, so it's mostly chronologically it goes. So it's first it is Sabon, then Baskerville, it's more modern, then Bodini is more modern, then then we go back to go to more later phases, which is humanist sans serif, where there was a little difference, but it's sans serif, it's not serif. Next it goes to the transitional, where the change between this line width, difference between the line widths was minimalized. Then it becomes very geometric, so this angular lines and all this other, if you look at the other typefaces of this fonts, letters of this typefaces, then you will see the geometry is maintained in different letters as well. Now it went to the more postmodern style of this design, which is Egyptian or slab serif, where there's a lot of line width is added and a lot of ornamentation is added into the design. And then there are other fonts like Universe, which is a type family which is done by designed by Adrian Frutiger. Frutiger is also a very well designed typefaces. You can explore that and explore more with the typefaces and mix and match with your design. And there is no hard and fast rule that it has to go with the particular typefaces. You can change and break the norms and play with and explore different typefaces, but this is a brief overview of what are the typefaces which can go with a different timeline. Thank you.